There is something terrifying about the moment a narcissist comes back into your life. Not because it is rare, not because it means love has returned, but because most people do not realize what actually triggered their return. The narcissist often comes back the exact moment you begin healing, the exact moment your energy starts changing, the moment your sadness becomes quieter, the moment your desperation begins fading, the moment you slowly reconnect with yourself again. Have you ever noticed that? When you were broken, crying, chasing, begging, obsessing, they seemed cold, distant, unreachable. But the moment you finally began rebuilding your life, suddenly they reappeared. A message, a call, a sudden apology, a strange emotional shift. Why? Why do narcissists often return the moment you stop needing them? Because narcissistic relationships do not function like healthy relationships. Healthy love grows through mutual connection. Narcissistic attachment grows through emotional consumption. And the moment your emotional energy becomes powerful again, the narcissist feels it. Not consciously in some magical way, but psychologically. Your confidence changes. Your attention shifts. Your emotional dependency weakens. Your identity starts returning. And ironically, that version of you is the version they were always drawn to from the beginning. Before the confusion, before the emotional exhaustion, before the self-doubt, before the anxiety. Think about who you were when they first met you. You had hope. You had emotional depth. You believed deeply. You loved deeply. You saw beauty in people. You had dreams for your future. There was light inside you. And narcissists are intensely drawn to people who carry emotional vitality, because they often cannot generate stability or self-worth from within themselves. That is one of the darkest truths about narcissism. Behind the confidence, behind the charm, behind the superiority, there is often an unbearable emptiness, an identity that constantly depends on external validation to survive. This is why narcissists crave attention the way starving people crave food. They need admiration, reassurance, control, emotional reactions, validation, not occasionally, constantly. Because without external emotional supply, many narcissists are forced to confront the feelings they spend their lives running from. Shame, insecurity, worthlessness, fear of abandonment, and emotional emptiness. And this is exactly why your healing becomes psychologically threatening to them. Because the moment you stop collapsing emotionally, you stop feeding the illusion that they are your source of worth. And narcissists are deeply addicted to being emotionally central in other people's lives. Think about it. Why do they often seem energized when you are suffering over them? Why do they suddenly become attentive when you begin pulling away? Why do they appear almost irritated when you are genuinely happy without them? Because your independence destabilizes the psychological role they assign themselves inside your life. The narcissist never wanted connection as much as they wanted significance. Your pain confirmed their power. Your obsession confirmed their importance. But your healing threatens the entire dynamic. And this is where many survivors become confused. Because when the narcissist returns, it can feel emotional, intense, even spiritual. Sometimes they come back softer, calmer, more vulnerable. Sometimes they say exactly what you waited months or years to hear. I miss you. I made mistakes. You're different now. I never stopped thinking about you. And for a moment, it feels real. Because part of you desperately wants it to be real. But here is the question most people avoid asking. If they truly changed, why did it require losing access to your energy first? Why did empathy only appear after emotional distance? Why did respect suddenly emerge once you stopped chasing? That is not usually transformation. That is psychological re-engagement. The narcissist senses that your emotional energy has become valuable again. And this is important to understand. Narcissists are often attracted to qualities they secretly resent. They admire emotionally strong people, but also envy them. They crave emotionally grounded people, but also want control over them. They are drawn toward light, while simultaneously feeling the urge to extinguish it. This is why so many narcissistic relationships become emotionally confusing. At first, they idealize your qualities. Your kindness becomes special. Your empathy becomes rare. Your ambition becomes inspiring. Your sensitivity becomes beautiful. But eventually, those same qualities begin triggering their insecurities. Your confidence reminds them of their emptiness. Your peace reminds them of their chaos. Your authenticity reminds them of the false self they constantly maintain. And slowly, admiration transforms into resentment. This is why narcissists often attack the very qualities they once loved about you. Have you ever noticed that? The same person who once admired your intelligence suddenly calls you arrogant. The same person who once praised your kindness suddenly calls you weak. The same person who loved your independence suddenly accuses you of being selfish. Why? Because your qualities stopped serving their emotional needs and started confronting their internal wounds instead. And narcissists will often destroy emotionally what they cannot internally become. That is why genuine happiness around a narcissist can feel strangely dangerous. If you begin thriving, they may become colder. If you become successful, they may become critical. If you become emotionally independent, they may suddenly become desperate for your attention again. Not because your growth is unhealthy, but because your growth exposes the emotional dependency hidden beneath their superiority. And perhaps nothing threatens a narcissist more than self-awareness. The moment you begin understanding manipulation patterns, something shifts. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop defending your reality. You stop reacting to every accusation. You stop needing them to validate your emotions. And once that happens, the illusion begins collapsing. That is why narcissists often react aggressively to boundaries. Because boundaries force accountability. Boundaries interrupt control. Boundaries expose manipulation. A healthy person may not always like your boundaries, but they eventually respect them. A narcissist often experiences boundaries as rejection, humiliation, or loss of power. And that is why arguments with narcissists usually go nowhere. You are trying to resolve reality. They are trying to protect identity. Those are completely different psychological goals. Facts do not penetrate someone whose entire defense system depends on distortion. Sometimes narcissists lie so often that even they begin believing their own narratives. Not because they are unaware of reality deep down, but because accepting reality would force them to confront unbearable shame. So instead, they rewrite events, rewrite conversations, rewrite history, rewrite you. And survivors often spend years trying to explain themselves to someone committed to misunderstanding them. But eventually, something profound happens. Exhaustion becomes clarity. You stop asking, "How do I make them understand?" And you start asking, "Why am I fighting so hard to be understood by someone invested in confusing me?" That question changes everything. Because true healing does not begin when the narcissist returns. True healing begins when their return no longer controls your sense of worth. And this is the part narcissists struggle to tolerate the most. A person who no longer needs their validation to feel valuable. Because once you rediscover your identity, once your peace no longer depends on their attention, once your happiness no longer depends on their approval, their psychological grip weakens. Not instantly, not perfectly, but fundamentally. And suddenly the game changes. You no longer fear abandonment the same way. You no longer chase crumbs of affection. You no longer confuse intensity with love. You begin seeing the cycle clearly. The idealization, the devaluation, the withdrawal, the return. And once you fully see the cycle, you cannot unsee it. That is why so many survivors describe healing as waking up from hypnosis. The emotional fog lifts. You stop romanticizing the pain. You stop confusing suffering with connection. You stop believing your love alone can heal someone determined to escape themselves. Because no amount of empathy can heal a person who uses other human beings to avoid confronting their own emptiness. And perhaps the deepest irony of all is this: the very qualities that attract narcissists to you, your empathy, your emotional depth, your hope, your passion, your light, are the exact qualities that eventually allow you to outgrow them completely. The moment you stop seeking your value through their eyes, their power begins collapsing. And for many people, that becomes the real beginning of their life.